Okay, perfect. Thanks everyone for coming. I appreciate it. The webinar that we're going to do today is Micron 6 finally here. It's a line pulled off of our website, and it's kind of, the Micron 5 was such a long-lasting product, and of course all the other Microns. We'll talk a little bit about the family of Microns here in just a moment. But the Micron 6 is I think it's been 15 years or something that we had the Micron 5. So we're jumping into the new one, and we're going to talk a little bit about it here. Talk about what some of the differences are, and kind of go from there. So let's jump over to this slide where the 30 years of the Micron, and we're going to have a guest here today. Cameron is joining us from AiM Sports out of our Lake Elsinore office. Cameron's a technician for AiM, been there a long time, one of our better technicians, and really enjoy working with him. And we don't get to see each other very often, right, Cameron? But the PRI show every year we get to meet up
PRI is always a great time. Yes. Thank you for having
absolutely.
me, Roger. It's
Oh,
great to be here.
absolutely. You're very knowledgeable on these things, and you do a very good job. He's done one of these with us before in the past on the Flagtronics system. If you want to go back and look at the other one he did, if you guys are going to be using the Flagtronics system in any of your areas, he talks a lot about integrating the Flagtronics information with the AiM Sport devices. So we will see where that takes us in the future. A great technology as well. So I'm going to basically turn it over to Cameron. I was make sure I was sharing my screen. Yep. I'm going to hand it over to Cameron and let him talk a little bit about the microns and what the differences are, and kind of lead into walking us all the way through even some menu items and chat about it. So with that, Cameron, take over. It's all yours.
Thank you so much, Roger. Yeah, so it's awesome to introduce you guys to the Micron 6 and the Micron 6 2T. It's AiM Sports' newest karting data logger, following its predecessor, the Micron 5S. For everyone looking at the screen now, seeing the evolution of the Micron, it's extremely amazing to see how far we've come. The Micron 6 itself is significantly updated, and it's going to be exciting to show you guys some of its new features. If you look at the front case of the unit itself, you're going to see right away, if you're familiar with the 5, we have a bit of a larger display here. The Micron 6 comes in at just under 6 inches, and the Micron 5 was around that 5.5 point. So it's looking a little bit larger, and we're getting some great feedback there. So it looks really cool. The graphical display is also larger. So we're going to get a 320, I believe, by 136 graphical pixelated display. So it's going to be fantastic in regards to the visuals. And once we get going, you guys are going to start seeing a lot more of the functions in the menu and what we can show off there. So if we were to turn the system around, you're going to see that it's very similar to the look of the Micron 5. We're going to have the same mounting style, and we're going to have the 3 inputs on the back of the units. The temperature input is good to note that it is exactly the same as the Micron 4, Micron 5, and the Micron 6. So if you are an existing AiM user, you would be able to use your patch cables from an existing system with the 6, as long as it's the appropriate temperature. Going to the temperatures themselves, we have the Micron 6 and the Micron 6 2T. The difference between the two systems is the addition of that extra temp sensor. So you'll be able to manage 2 thermocouples or a thermocouple and thermal resistor sensor off the unit at purchase. One thing I do want to show you guys too is what you kind of will get out of the box. So what you would expect to see with a single temp Micron, it to come with one of these 2 cables, the single temp thermocoupled cable or the single temp thermal resistor cable. And that would either be paired with a thermal resistor water temp sensor or EGT or cylinder head. And these will allow you to get your temps off the unit directly, all plugged into the top input on the back of the unit. Also included in the box is going to be a USB-C cable. This is going to allow you to communicate with the Micron, and that is also a new addition to the unit. You're going to be able to communicate via USB-C on the back, as well as charge the system through that input as well. You will also expect to get an RPM lead, and this will allow you to get an inductive pickup off of the spark plug and get RPM to the unit. And you're going to see that with the internal battery of the Micron 6, you're no longer going to get an external battery or charging kit with the unit. It's all internal now. Go back over here.
Want me to re-show that screen here real quick? There you go.
Awesome.
Talk about the evolution of the logger.
Absolutely. So in regards to what we're going to get out of the unit now, it's much more than just a tachometer and a GPS lap timer. We're going to have multiple formats of viewing lap information, temperatures, and reviewing this data post-session. So it's a really robust Kart logger, more than your typical tachometer and GPS lap timer. On top of some of the features we're going to see with the unit, we're going to have a 6-axis IMU that you are going to, if you're familiar with the fives, aren't there. So this 6-axis IMU is going to allow us to get vertical, lateral, and inline acceleration, as well as pitch, roll, and yaw rate. And that's really beneficial in regards to understanding movement on the chassis. And when we get into the menu, you're going to see we're using these sensors now to produce steering angle, which is going to be just a massive improvement to what we can get out of the data. And we'll go through that here shortly. We're also going to have Wi-Fi and Bluetooth connectivity, just like the 5 did. If you're familiar with the 5s, we could connect the 5 to the software using Wi-Fi. We can do the same with the 6 as well with the USB-C connection for communication. You're also going to have the Bluetooth capability for added sensor connection, and I'll show you guys here shortly how you would set that up in the unit. But you'll be able to communicate with heart rate monitors, for example, is the perfect example to get biochemistry out on track. And there's going to be more additions in the future for other sensors outside of that as well. So it's an exciting addition. The secondary input on the back of the unit is now a CAN 2 stream and a lap input. So if you were familiar with the 5s and the 4s in the past, that's always been a 4-pin input on the back of the unit. That is now a 7-pin input. And we're still going to be able to utilize these lap inputs and speed inputs if you're doing a CVT setup. But you are also going to be able to utilize a CAN 2 stream. And in the future, that's going to be super robust in regards to what we can add to the unit on ECM control or added sensor controls. So we're excited to see where that can potentially lead. We're also going to have the internal battery, like I had mentioned before, and that is also a huge addition to the unit. So you no longer will be having to charge the system overnight or before your sessions, or at least that external battery. You can connect the system to USB-C or 5-pin off the back of the unit to charge it. And that's going to have a average battery life of 20 hours at a full charge. So we're really excited for that as well. And then with the system expansion wise, you can expect to be able to communicate with all of our SmartyCam 3 series cameras, as well as the LCU1S channel expansion and IR temp controller. So we still have the expansion capabilities that if you are familiar with the 5s, are still there. Or if you're new to the karting, you can expand off the system and get even more information.
Okay, let me stop my share there and probably hand it over to you to show us a little bit about the gauge and then share your screen and go from there.
Awesome. So what I want to show you guys now is basically out of the box how we can set up a Micron 6 and what needs to be done in order for you to install on the cart and start getting some data. So I'm going to share my screen here. And you guys should now see a clear picture of the Micron 6.
Yes, we do.
So we're going to start with the buttons here. We're going to have our top left menu. Our bottom left is off. Our top right is the memory and OK button. And the bottom right is our on and view. So we're just going to go ahead and click this on button here to power the system on. And at start, this is what you will see. It'll open to the configuration wizard. And really the configuration wizard is the basic setup of the unit that allows us to get up and going to install and get data. So it's going to start with language preferences for ease of configurability. I'm going to go with English. And then temperature, we can choose Fahrenheit. Speed, you do have the option between kilometers and miles per hour. With the temperature, you do have the option between Celsius and Fahrenheit as well. Our full scale RPM, this is what we expect our max scale RPM to be. For example's sake, we can pick 16, and then we have our drive setup. Depending on the cart or vehicle you are driving, your drive setup will reflect that. For example, let's go to direct, and for type of racing, you have the option between oval and road racing. Once we click OK there, the basic end of the unit has now been set up. If you were to install the unit on your cart with the RPM lead, you would be able to produce data and lap times once we get her installed. And that is just the basic setup to get it going. It should be relatively simple for someone who buys the system to go through this beginning menu stage and get to a position where they can view or install and get data. And that is the basic end of turning on and starting the Micron 6. From here, we can start diving into, a little bit more of the new settings that we see. Right away, you're going to see, if you're familiar with the fives, new display setup. This display setup is really cool. You're going to have our lap time option, RPM, and then a reference time here, plus minus reference time for laps. So you can expect the bar to go up and down according to the reference time on track, which I think is an amazing visual for drivers to see. We also have just more display setups that anyone would be, if you're familiar with the other units, are different, and we can go through those more on the display, but you'll see there's just more there to offer. If we were to go into the menu of the system, it's going to start with the backlight. And in the backlight, you have the option to turn on or off the backlight or switch it to auto. And the auto uses a light sensitive meter to judge whether the backlight should be on. And we have the option to change between 8 different backlight colors. That's just fully configurable by the end user and ends up being preference. If we were to go into the next category, we have the system settings. And a lot of these settings are what you see in the configuration wizard. You can easily get back to the configuration wizard and change, or you could go through and manually kind of go through each individual one. You have your unit of measurement where we can change our speed unit and our temp unit. We can go on to our drive setup where we set up the direct drive. If that needs to be changed, you can go between all of them like we did in the configuration wizard. And then we can go to our RPM setup. This again was in the configuration wizard as well, but you didn't get the option for the RPM factor and frequency. The frequency is the amount of data points we are recording per second. So 20 hertz means we are getting 20 data points per second. We can change that to 50 while we will get more data points and clearer data. This will just increase the size of your data file because we are getting more per second. The RPM factor, this is dependent on the number of sparks we see per revolution. So dependent on the sparks, we may need to multiply or divide the RPM factor to have an even reading. This is something you'll see upon setup and is usually pretty straightforward in getting set up. But again, any questions, we can always help there. From the RPM setup, you will see the temperature setup. You can do automatic or manual. The unit is incredibly good at judging what sensor is being plugged in, whether it be thermocouple or thermal resistive. If you're running a 2-temperature unit, there may be a situation where you're running multiple thermocouples and you need to specify manually. The unit gives you that option in the menu settings. From the temperature setup, we can go to the lap time setup. And this is basically whether we want to see a lap summary or not. So if the lap summary is enabled, that means every time I cross the start finish point for 8 seconds, which is a configurable time, I will see my lap time come across the screen and let the driver know and record if that is going on. And we can enable and disable that. We can also enable a speed input in the lap input. So if we wanted to utilize the 7-pin input on the back of the Micron for a speed input, that is entirely possible. And we would be able to enable that and disable that as need be. So just again, another big feature that I think the 5S had that I think customers will enjoy on the 6 as well is having that speed input as an option. From there, we can go to our LED setup. You're going to have 2 alarm LEDs in the upper left and right-hand corner of the Micron, as well as the 5 LED bars in the top. And those can be configured for lap time, so a predictive reference or a best section, or we can do RPM and schedule them to shift lights. So it really is preference to the end user, but there are multiple ways we can configure the lights at the top or the RGB LEDs at the top of the unit. We exit out of LED setup. The next option is display setup, and this is where we can go through and set up how we would like to view the Micron or view our display. So if we change our setups here, and if we're familiar with the Micron 5s, this is the same exact concept as it was with our previous units. We can enable and disable our custom pages. and then we can configure them for the selected spots. And you will see our options for sensors or channels are here below for us to set in the display. From the next, we have our general settings. And again, this is just the type of racing and the way that we want to see our predictive time. We do have the option to look at the best lap of a particular day, the previous lap, or user reference lap. And that is a reference lap. We can use the software to send the unit. So let's say you've run, the best lap of your life, and you want to use this lap every time you go out on the track as your predictive or your reference lap. We can use the software to make that happen so you can reach target goals knowingly or more visually. From the general settings, we can go to the system information. And if you are familiar with our awesome text, this is probably a page we ask you to go to quite frequently. So we can understand the system information. If you want to know your serial number, so the unit identification, or the magic question is what the firmware version of your unit is, the system information page will tell you all that information as well. And then if you have a connected expansion, such as a Smarty camera, Micron expansion IR temp controller, you would be able to see the information or the net information of those expansions in this page as well. If we were to exit here, we can exit the system settings and go into the counters. These are time and mile counters that the Micron keeps. There is an overall system counter. So if you're familiar with the systems, this is kind of a format that we have always kept. But then you have user definable odometers that we can say for engine time or time of any particular part or distance. And that is something that the users can define and reset. If we were to exit the counters, we can go over to the Wi-Fi settings. And the Wi-Fi settings are where we can enable and disable the Wi-Fi. If you can see, I set the Wi-Fi mode to auto, which means that when the unit is on and not recording, it will have the Wi-Fi on and available to connect. If I initiate RPM to the system and it starts recording, the Wi-Fi will turn off. Now I can change this mode between off. I can turn the Wi-Fi off entirely and just utilize the USB-C on the back of the unit to communicate, or I can keep it on constantly. And if I want to run diagnostics on the system via Wi-Fi while the unit is recording, this will always keep the Wi-Fi on and allow you to connect. One note I would like to say is keeping the Wi-Fi on does drain the battery faster. It is a function that does require battery strength. So keeping it in constantly on, you will expect potentially smaller battery lifetimes just because of that feature, as well as the backlight. These are things just to keep in mind.
The battery life on this, do you have an idea of how much?
20 hours roughly is what we're expecting at a full charge.
That is a lot of hours. That's an
That is a lot of hours. That is
weekend of running,
of
right?
racing.
A three-day
Absolutely.
weekend, yeah.
Absolutely. We should be expecting a great battery life from the system. I'm going to move on over now to the Bluetooth, which is going to be a new menu setting for existing users and our new users. So if we enter Bluetooth here, you will see the option to turn Bluetooth on. And as an example, I'm going to put this heart rate monitor next to the unit and turn it on. Let's make sure it is blinking. And I can change my Bluetooth setting to on. And if I was to go down to select Bluetooth device, it should register this unit once I turn it on.
This is the way it always works, right? When you
the way it always works.
There you got it going.
Once it is selected, I can exit out and hit yes. The unit will restart and it has now been registered to connect to this Bluetooth device. If we go back into the menu and go to our Bluetooth settings, you will see that it's on. And if we select our Bluetooth device, it is connected. Our next option would be then have that displayed if you'd like. And if we go to our system settings like we did before and go to our display setup, we can go to custom page and configure. And you'll see the option for our heart rate monitor now becomes available as a channel. And we can view it there for C.
You can view it there, or you could probably even add it to all your custom screens as well, right?
Absolutely. And you can also view it in the live measures while connected to the system. You will be able to see this channel as well. And we can go through that here shortly. But regarding Bluetooth, it should be a very straightforward process in regards to turning on your system, going to the selected devices, and just selecting it as connected or on. The unit will restart, and you should now be getting that channel in the data.
Very cool, very powerful
Very
new.
powerful new, yeah, very powerful new addition to the units. This is going to be huge in regards to new sensors in the future as well. I know lots of companies and lots of people are expanding the way we connect to sensors. Not everything is analog anymore. We have a lot of CAN-based, a lot of Bluetooth-based sensors. So it will be exciting to see, where we can get to in the future with this capability.
And the Bluetooth world is doing nothing but growing, right?
But
So there are
growing,
all
yes.
sorts of stuff coming.
And let me also add before I go on that we will have the option to connect to up to 4 Bluetooth devices simultaneously. So while I'm connected to this one, I can add 3 other Bluetooth devices to this unit, which I think is extremely robust. If we think of our phones, for example, or I don't think my phone can connect to more than one Bluetooth device. So it is cool to see that coming off of the Micron.
Wonder what 4 equals in Bluetooth devices on a cart. What could you do with 4 different
What
ones?
4 possible is? Yeah, it
Yeah.
gets the brain thinking for sure. If we were to move on from the Bluetooth, we have our track management. And this is our ability to go from an automatic track selection or a manual track selection. If it was a manual track selection, it would use the GPS to recognize the tracks in the area, and we would be able to manually select the track that we want to go to. I've seen customers utilize this in tracks that have many, many configurations. Should not be necessary, but it can be depending on a situational basis. So you have the option to automatically have the unit automatically select your track using GPS recognition, or you can manually select it. And this track management will give you the option to do that. If we were to go to the next option, it's just the language and zone. So I have the option to go back to some of these settings that were in the configuration wizard, but then I also have the option to adjust my date and time. GPS time sync is the most popular time sync setting. As soon as your unit connects to SATs, it uses those satellites to get a timestamp, and it can keep that timestamp as it progresses through. It seems to be the most accurate and easily to adjust. From the date and time, we have our configuration wizard. And so this is something we can easily get back to. This is the same configuration wizard that we did when we first turned the unit on. And it would allow us to go through all of the settings, all the base settings, and get the unit up and running for what we were looking to do. If we were to follow the configuration wizard, you have the clear memory option. And if you wanted to clear your memory for any reason, you can do it through the system while connected to the software. Or you can do it through the system while not connected to the software. Forgive me. And that is the basic setup of the Micron 6. The configuration wizard at power on is the most important thing to go through. Once we get through the configuration wizard, you should be able to install your system and begin getting data. The rest of it, absolutely preferable, and we're excited to see where people get to with the Bluetooth capabilities, added sensor support, expansions. You have lots of options on where you can take it. It is extremely robust. And if it's okay with you, Roger, I would like to take it over to the Race Studio 3 side of things and show the connection in the live measures and kind of what it looks like there.
Absolutely. Just bring up Ray Studio 3 and let's take a
You
look at
got
it.
it. All righty. So let's take a look at the software. If we open up Race Studio 3, you can see I have the Micron 6 here as a connected device. If I click underneath, if I click on the Micron 6 underneath connected devices, you're going to see our list of options are going to pop up with starting with live measures. And this is everything the Micron 6 sees in real time. Using this information, we can run troubleshooting tests while connected to the system, and we can identify things that are going on without looking at the system screen itself while utilizing the software and or computer. One really cool thing I want to show you guys right now is going to be the steering angle channel. The steering angle is a new channel that's been added to the system with the addition of the 6-axis IMU. So utilizing that 6-axis IMU, I can turn the Micron side, and side. And let me highlight this channel so it's easier to see.
I was going to say, just click on that guy. There you
Click
go.
on that there, but when I rotate the system, you will see its ability to track steering angle using the accelerometer is there. So after your sessions, those channels should be available in the data. A lot of new features. I'm sure there's going to be some kinks to work out, but the fact that we are able to utilize the 6-axis IMU to begin getting this information, I think, is huge. If you're familiar with Micron 5s in the past, you had to use the steering angle sensor, and installation-wise, it's not the funnest to install with the pulleys and whatnot. So I think having something like this out of the box is extremely powerful, and will only benefit end users, especially with additions of cameras, smarty cameras, and other expansions we can do to have this information represented in different ways. It's extremely powerful. And then from here, I just want to give you guys a brief example of how we can download data from the system. If you are a new user to AiM and you have connected your system using the Wi-Fi tab here, or you're connected to it via the USB-C cable on the back of the system, we are going to be able to update the unit's firmware and download data through the RS3 software. So for a quick example here, I'm going to force a channel value to make the unit record of 1000. So now that I've initiated this recording parameter, all the Micron 6 needs to see in order to begin its recording process is RPM. As soon as we get an RPM signal, the unit should start recording and we'll begin capturing that data. If I was to stop forcing this, and this is just an example on the PC end, the unit is no longer getting RPM. It should stop recording and the session is over. Once you have finished the session, you come off of track, you're ready to view or download your data, you can go connect via Wi-Fi or USB-C and go to data download. In the data download session, you will now see your file is available to download. All you have to do to download it is make sure the box next to your file is clicked and hit data download right here. For example, this is Cameron Racer session, and we are going to OK. Let's overwrite it. And we have now downloaded the data off of the unit, and it is available to view in our RS3 analysis platform, and that is the 3 icon in the top left-hand corner of the software. And you will see your new sessions will have a new option next to them with the ability to double click and open. As an example, this data is not going to be too jam-packed, but it is the base process of coming off of track, connecting to your system and getting a data file off of it. That will get you going in regards to what you can see on track. As well as on the unit itself, this would be a good one to go over, the memory recall option. So if we were to go back to the system, if you don't want to download your data and you need to review quick times or temperature, maximum and minimums, you would be able to hit this memory recall button, and it has your session stored onto the unit for quick recall. From here, we can go to our different tests. If this was a full session, I'd be able to cycle through multiple memory recall pages to see different formats of the way I can view this information. So you will not be limited to just the software. If you download data or you run a session, you do not need the software to review it briefly. You can use memory recall on the unit, though downloading data to the software is the most in-depth, best way of processing the system post-session. All righty. Let me look over my notes real quick, because I genuinely think that for the most part, if you are able to go through these settings, you should be able to go and get data on a Micron 6.
While you're doing that, there was a couple of quick questions that have been being answered in the background, but I wanted to make sure folks
Absolutely.
watching
Sorry. Yeah, I wasn't looking
no,
at the
that's
chat, you
okay.
guys.
There, one of them was the was the RPM different on the 5 versus the 6? the RPM trait, the lead, and
Copy.
it seems to be exactly the same. Matt Romanowski answered the question there, and he
Yes,
said
sir.
good luck on
Yes.
an L206 cart that the user Alex was having some trouble with. So if Alex, if you're having some trouble, as Matt said, give our techs a call and let's figure it out.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Not
we'll
a
get
big
her
deal.
taken care of. Yeah, great question though. It is same as the temperature cables, and I should have emphasized that the RPM lead is the same as well between the fours, fives, and six. So existing leads should work. Absolutely.
Perfect. And then one other question was from Peter was, will the steering angle from the Micron calculated one using the gyros and the six axis will be as accurate as a steering angle sensor? And the answer with that is probably no, but it's going to be the data that I've seen that we've had both and got a test off of it. It was very close. But
Mhm.
there is steering wheels, there's banking of the tracks, there's some things that are going on there that'll make it
I'm
maybe not
I'm
quite
sure
as accurate,
there's
but it's
absolutely tolerance
pretty
there
close.
between the two. But like you're saying, Roger, I imagine they would be very close.
Yeah.
And the consistency between the two, more importantly, would allow you to use that data in a beneficial manner.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think we should be looking really good there. I think another thing to notice too, hardware wise, is that we do have an updated GPS in the Micron 6. And
Ah,
I don't believe I mentioned that before.
no.
The GPS in the system has been updated. It's going to record at 25 hertz, which the GPS 71A in the Micron 5S did, but this newer Micron 5 or Micron 6 GPS installed to the board should be more powerful. We should get lap times within 1/100th of a second to accuracy, depending on our GPS strength. And one thing we can look at in regards to troubleshooting our GPS is this track search button right here. If you are a new user or an existing AIM user and you want to know how your system is connecting to SATs, if it's searching or where we stand, if there are nearby tracks, you can be on the home screen of the unit and click the bottom left button, and it will take you to the track search page. And this page will allow us to view how many SATs we are actively connected to. And any nearby tracks that are in the area. And that is a good tool to know if we need to transmit the track to the system, if we need to enable track learning. There are things we can do to make sure that everything's squared away.
Perfect. And that's the same as a Micron 4, 5, and 6,
Absolutely.
same
The
screen
fours, I
input.
believe, yeah, would have used the external GPS module, utilizing GPS Manager and a data key. The fives, exactly the same concept, utilizing RS3 track database. Or track learning in the system to get the tracks onto the unit. And the track database in the Micron 6 is going to allow you to store thousands of tracks. So there should not be an issue with the ability to get as many tracks as you are going to visit onto the system.
Perfect. Perfect. What about another question that did come in there? What about it has a huge battery, 20 hours. What happens if somebody comes along and they'd forgotten to charge their Micron 6 battery for the last 3 weeks, three events, and they get there and it's dead? Can it be
External
connected to an external
power.
battery?
Yes, sir. External power would be the route to go there. A lot of existing users utilizing the SmartyCam 3 Sports most likely have external power wired into the cart. If you do not have that set up, you can absolutely wire in a 5-pin external power harness into the back of the Micron 6. It would go into the 5-pin input, very bottom input on the back of the unit, and we can take that to the battery and power terminals of the and get external power to the unit without issue. And he would get a charge from there as well. So we wouldn't need to leave it on there all day. I don't think, we should be able to get a good charge to the system and get it going.
Some carts have a battery, and it'd be nice to have it just tied into that
Yes,
forever.
it's good to note too, Roger, is not all carts run cart batteries, and this
Exactly.
has been kind of a tricky situation over the last year with the customers who like to run the SmartyCam 3 Sports, existing with the Micron 5s. Battery is necessary in a lot of these situations. So there are workarounds out there. I have seen some great installations on smaller lithium-ion RC batteries, very lightweight, that absolutely provide the power needed to get people through their track events or their weekends. So I do think that there are absolute workarounds that are feasible on the market to get this taken care of if need be.
Perfect. Perfect. Okay. Anything else that you'd like to add as we're starting to wind this one down?
No, if anything, it's just to harp on our support. If you guys have any questions, if there are any issues out there, or you guys want a better understanding, please don't hesitate to give us a call. Our awesome techs here are more than happy to help in this process and make sure everyone gets the information they need to have great track days and get great data from what they're trying to do.
Yeah, perfect. As always, right, with our support, that's really where we help a lot of folks, and it's really important to us to that everybody
Absolutely.
gets the most out of their hardware and their software
Yeah,
as they're using it.
as similar as everything is kind of unique at the same time. So everyone needs a little bit of help every now and then, and we're happy to do it. We are happy to do it.
Absolutely. Let me share my screen again here, and we have speaking of the support side, we have a ton of videos out there already. We're generating more all the time and going to be kind of stepping up that program.
Hmm.
And so if you have not visited our YouTube site, make sure you go over and visit that. There's just 276 videos there right now, right? And YouTube has a pretty good little search bar, but we're also wanting to build more shorter videos that we're working on right now to get more specific, single task specific videos up there where you can find them real easily and take a look at it. So looking forward to getting those up there and getting those going. So the as Cameron mentioned, customer support is a big part of what we do. If you have any issues, you'll catch our support techs at the track. We have a couple of these Sprinter vans that are out there. If not, they'll be showing up and walking around with their backpacks and chatting with people. If you don't catch them there, we have an 800 number that you can call most any time and get us it that way. We just want to make sure that we're here helping you, making sure you get the most out of everything that you get from us. So, want to make sure that you don't bang your head against the wall. That we help you get going, because once you get going and understanding the process, all of these things really come together pretty easy, and everything works the same. But it's that initial learning curve. Want to make sure that we're here to help you. Of course, hardware support and any repairs that need to be done. You banged your helmet onto your Micron and broke the display. We can help you work on some of that stuff as well. So. Okay, the contact information. Cameron did a great job here today. You'll be able to replay this video back and get a lot of information. But if you have additional information, there's some email addresses down there below. And for Cameron and myself, always happy to answer the emails and get everybody up to speed. So, Cameron, anything else you'd like to kind of add as we're closing this one down?
I think we're good, Roger. Thank you guys so much for having me. It's always super fun to do this, to do these webinars and get some information out there. So yeah, I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. The looking forward to these webinars in the future. Come join us in the future. If you're watching this one on YouTube, contact us. We'll get you the information to register for these live webinars and go from there. So thanks everybody for coming. I appreciate it. Looking forward to seeing you all out at the track, chatting with you via email or the phone. Looking forward to it, and we'll talk to you all later. See you guys, and thanks for coming. Bye bye.